we're live on time for once. Welcome to the Death Battle Cast. Hey, I'm Ben. I'm the voice of Wiz in that Death Battle show that you may or may not watch. If you don't, I'm not really sure how you found us, but welcome. That's Liam. He's the writer and director of the most recent episode of Death Battle. Sorry,
Not me, not Liam.
You're not Liam today.
I stole his face. Liam's dead on the ground over there.
Oh boy.
That's Chad. He did not direct and write Ghost Rider vs. Spawn.
I'm Chad.
We got John, storyboard artist extraordinaire. Been boarding pretty much every death battle for a little while now.
Yeah, basically. One-man army on this.
Yeah, and we got Jukum, one of the many amazing researchers who writes or who works for Death Battle and make sure that we get our shit right, get our shit together before we actually make these shows. Okay, so today we got a lot to talk about. We got an exciting matchup, one that I've seen requested for a very long time. The Pokemon versus the Monster. Does Monster Hunter have like a name for their monsters?
There's different types. You can call this one a flying wyvern.
Yeah, but I mean, like, does it have like a trademark? Like all the monsters in Monster Hunter
are monsters.
Monstro or something like that.
No, they're monsters. They don't have a special name for them. They're just a bunch of monsters.
Cool. All right. Pokemon versus just a generic flying monster man thing.
This is
all right.
Yeah.
The generic flying monster.
He is the generic flying monster. Trust me.
Oh, that's good.
Charizard versus Rathalos. Let's be frank, they're also the dragons with the coolest names. So this is going to be fun. I'm excited to learn about how this matchup would work, see what the heck Rathalos is bringing into this, and get to the debate, because this is going to be a full-on debate episode, everybody. So pick your side. Let us know in the chat who you think would win between Charizard and Rathalos. I'm checking out the live chat right now. Thank you, Third Degree, for that super chat. Says non-Liam should prove he's Chad. Do the boomstick voice. Chad, you can do the boomstick voice, right?
I'm Wiz, and this is a death battle. I eat squirrels and I kill them for fun.
I think the Liam mask is kind of messing with your voice. We'll figure
I
it out.
just shit my pants.
Yep. All right.
Liam, this line is too stupid. I can't read it.
Actually, that's pretty accurate. Also, two things I want to real quick, very quickly sort of highlight before we jump into the debate. One, I'm sure anybody here, most people here are aware that Ghost Rider versus Spawn was age restricted shortly after it debuted. If you're interested in the details on that, I made a pretty lengthy Blue Sky and Twitter post going over it, but the age restriction kind of created a little bit of chaos for a bit there, and made it hard for people to actually watch, like see the video, right? Like it wasn't sharing the video with people. So I really appreciate everybody who jumped in to help share the video, spread word that we actually posted a death battle, because even people who are subscribed to Death Battle weren't seeing it show up in their feed. So thank you everybody for sharing it around and helping it get people actually seeing it, because we worked really hard on it. Liam, who isn't here, did a fantastic job directing it and really like establishing a vision for the episode as a whole. And then Zach, the animator, lone animator working on it,
the goat.
Fucking killed it, man. Like the animation's so freaking good. So thank you everybody who watched it and shared it around. The age gate was actually just recently lifted. The edit that was made, again, you can go back to the Blue Sky or Twitter post to sort of learn why and how an edit was made. We still can't revert it, so things are still kind of in motion. It's not like we're not like done, everything's fixed or anything like that. Things are still kind of in motion. We will be figuring more things out as the week goes, and hopefully by the end of the week we will have a lot more information to share with you guys. But that's the current kind of where we're sitting at the moment. It was a whole thing. So but yes, it was, as OC Blast says in chat, it was too edgy for YouTube. Yeah, definitely seems to have been. Oh, I will say I did see some people posting comments wondering if like this is going to affect how we make Death Battle moving forward, right? Like, oh, are they gonna have to play it really safe or anything
We're
like
taking
that?
out the deaths.
Yeah,
It's just
Yeah, no
battle.
more violence, no
Welcome
more
to
cursing.
battle.
You know,
No more bad words.
Debate
Yeah.
battle. That's how we keep the DB.
welcome to soft debate battle. No, obviously not. There's always a little bit of risk to releasing any sort of production through distribution. This is just one of those things we have to do. We have to deal with. But we've had plenty of Death Battle episodes go up and work just fine. So this is an anomaly in the grand scheme of things. So don't worry, we're not going to suddenly turn tame or anything like that.
From now on,
Promise.
every death right before it becomes a bloody, gory mess is just going to cut to a black screen, and then the doors come slamming down to the results.
Yeah, there we go. Get ready for all the censor bars. Everything's going to be censored. No.
Text of hug your friends.
No. Yeah, so again, thank you to everybody who checked that out and shared it around. I also wanted to do a quick shout out to the Death Battle Wiki. They are actually moving to a new hosting website. They should have I don't know if it's up just yet, but they should have an announcement on the old Death Battle Wiki. So just keep an eye out for that. We are not like associated really with them. They're not like an official thing or whatever, but hey, we've all used it at some point. We've given them shout outs before in the past. So if you're interested in checking out the Death Battle Wiki, it's in a new spot now. They're using Mirahis. So just keep that in mind if you are going to that website. Okay, so we've diddled and dawdled enough. I don't know why I said that. Let's get to
Diddled enough.
Accurate.
nope. Let's get to the matchup. Let's talk about Charizard versus Rathalos.
Now, yeah. Before we begin, we have to go down the list of exactly what we're debating here, I guess, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So here's how this is going to work, everybody. John is going to be representing Rathalos. Jacob is going to be representing Charizard. It is their job to convince everybody else here, myself, Liam, who's not Chad, or Chad, who's not Liam, and all of you watching live. We do this live every Tuesday at noon, by the way. Who should win? It is up to them to convince all of us who should win. At the end of the show, there will be a poll that determines once and for all, sort of, who would win in a death battle.
Cat.
All right. So, we were sort of talking before diving into this, John and Jacob. I know there's a lot of different ways we can take this. We can kind of sort of base this debate on, because Charizard, obviously, there's like wild Charizard. There's also trained Charizards. There's different types of Charizards. Rathalos also has a similar thing going on where there are multiple different versions of Rathalos and variations and
Subspecies and
yeah.
variants.
So I'd like to start just going at it with like base sort of expectations.
if they both found each other in the wild one day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then we are going to sort of
Give a couple.
move further into the potential of these dragons as we continue the argument. So I'd like us to start with our 60-second, intros from each of you, just kind of going over what a base wild Rathalos or Charizard is bringing to this match and why they would potentially win. So we'll start with Jacob, the
Yes,
Charizard. I
sir.
feel like Charizard is the one a lot of us are very familiar with. So let's get a refresher, and also, if there's anything surprising we need to know about a wild Charizard. You've got 60 seconds. Go for it.
All right. So we all know Charizard. Been around since the beginning. One of the mascots for the series. So it's been around a lot. Such a renowned Pokemon that's been actually the most used Pokemon on a lot of trainer teams. This is just for a reference for how strong it is perceived even in the wild. Being a dragon-like Pokemon, it can fly super high. Specifically, it can fight like over 4,000 feet in the air, breathe fire to the point where it can melt glaciers that weigh 10,000 tons. Its fire breath is also compared to the heat of lava. And while I think a lot of the wild Pokemon feats do surpass Rathalos, Charizard himself, even if he were to get to low HP, has the Blaze ability. So even if he were but put on the back foot, his fire attacks would become even stronger and would be able to just overpower Rathalos. Beyond that, being RPG Dragon, it has a ton of moves, even from a wild standpoint. Mostly because wild Pokemon have been shown to have other moves besides the ones from its level up moveset. So I think that the versatility would allow it to overpower even a base Rathalos. Um, and despite that, I'm losing track of my word. Oh my god.
All good.
Yeah, despite the
Go ahead,
size
wrap up.
advantage, Charizard definitely has the physical strength to be able to keep up with a giant dragon compared to Charizard. Charizard actually loves the challenge of dealing with like stronger looking opponents. So I think this matchup would be perfect for Charizard, and he has all the abilities and power necessary in order to take it down.
All right. Good opening for Charizard. Now, I'm really curious to hear what you have to say to introduce Rathalos, John. Go for it.
All right, so Rathalos is the flagship monster of Monster Hunter 1 and has been the quintessential monster to pretty much show up in every single constant Monster Hunter game since. He has gotten a ton of flack of the fact that, yeah, if there's a Monster Hunter game, here he is. Because he is your basic understanding of what a giant flying wyvern would be. Even though he's not actually technically a dragon, he's a flying wyvern. He has the ability of to breathe fire, and the main thing to really bring up is that his claws are poisonous, with a deadly poison, mind you. I believe this is like one of the main things that can help him win against someone like Charizard, because Charizard has no means to cure himself from poison. So at the start of a fight, if a nick from his claws would immediately put him in a situation where he's like now on a timer and be more disoriented, like Pokemon tend to be when they're poisoned. Another thing would be the fact that Rathalos, as a type of like creature that he is, has a myriad of different like aerial maneuverabilities. I believe they're pretty much be on par with each other in the air, because he's literally known as the king of the skies. If it's one thing that Rathalos knows how to do, is how to fly at like massive speeds. And when comparing to other monsters that should be on the same level as him, as a flagship, at least, he should be compared to at least other flagships from other games. Rathalos also has many different types of variants. One of the strongest variants gives him the ability to manipulate light and light balls and move very quickly.
Right.
So from base to here, Rathalos has a lot going on.
Okay. So just want to catch up on some of the coughing super chats. We've got let's see, from let's see, we got from Capcyrus, watching this cast with my Charizard plush. So I think we got one vote already for Charizard.
Yes, let a bias flow within you.
From Adam Zekel or Zielke. Did I say that right? Adam Zielke. Good thing. Well, okay.
Crossover, actually. Can I address crossover? Yes, there actually is a different kind. In Monster Hunter, there is actually a poison called Deadly Poison that is different from two other poisons in Monster Hunter. So yes.
Oh, Pokemon's kind of like that too. They got poison,
and then there has like
badly poison.
There's badly poison. So yes, in fact, crossover. Yes.
I have a quick question for John. When you said that he wasn't a dragon, does Monster Hunter follow the rule where dragons have 4 legs and wyverns only have 2?
Like when I said that,
are they labeled wyvern? Because like
yeah, they're labeled wyvern. He is a wyvern. Like when I
technically.
Yeah, he is a dragon. He's the wyvern class of dragon.
We have 2 fake dragons up for here, right?
Yeah, that's another reason. Yeah.
Technically, yeah. Technically,
they're not the textbook definition of on all fours. Like Fatalis would be like your textbook definition of a dragon, being on all fours with wings and stuff.
Well,
you have a wyvern. Because thanks to Skyrim calling all their wyverns dragons, it made it very complicated for dragon
enthusiasts. It's not really a thing. But people will say wyverns are 2 legs, dragons are 4 legs. That's not a thing.
I know that's not.
It's not really a thing. Also, that would mean that all the Game of Thrones dragons are wyverns. Like, it's not a thing. There is no official definition of what makes a dragon. Technically speaking, a dragon can be anything that is like a big ass lizard. They don't need wings. They don't need legs.
I was purely asking if that is Monster Hunter was following that like idea, not that.
We have officially confirmed that neither of these guys are dragons. So guess what? They're just not cool anymore.
I think we just started a whole new debate.
Yeah, look, forget
So
it. Yeah,
Key
they're all
in chat asks, do you think it's kind of not difficult? Like they both have fire resistance and size difference, but like on their. I just got a fucking stroke. What is this comment, Key? Do you think it's kind of not difficult? Like they both fire resistance, but size different, but it's
not
like on their peak, then they fight.
Okay, I think if I had to translate that, it's like yes, they both are resistant to fire because Pokemon logic and Rathalos is also resistant to fire.
Yes.
Rathalos is way bigger than him. I believe the highest he can get is 24 meters ish, 23 to 24 meters ish. Well, the shortest I know that Charizard is like 5 feet, and so on.
5'7" on the same height as a Charizard.
Yeah. But at their peak, I think he means like, okay, if it isn't base to base, you take like Mega Evolution, all the anime feats and stuff like that, and you take like one of the more powerful Rathalos that are, I believe it's in Monster Hunter Frontier G, I believe. Yeah, it's stuff like that. Just taking them at
the
their
light one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the light one.
And then El Cato says all Pokemon are at minimum light speed because they can dodge Solar Beam. I would disagree with that.
I see
I
where
wouldn't.
people are coming from.
I wouldn't actually.
I would say that
I can explain. If you would like.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. And then there was also a comment earlier that said like obviously Charizard wins because Charizard can beat Rathalos in Smash Brothers. But I think there's also a lot of extra context to that too. So let's get into this. So let's talk about Charizard and what he can actually do. Is he light speed because they can dodge Solar Beam?
Yes. And
Yeah.
so there are several Pokemon attacks that are described as being light. Let me 1 sec. I'm not sure if I even have them all, but there is Solar Beam, Power Gem, Dazzling Gleam, Signal Beam, Techno Blast, Doom Desire, Light of Ruin, Confuse Ray, Light Screen, Reflect, and more.
Techno Blast. I like that.
Some of those others maybe are good arguments. I would argue Solar Beam is not because it takes forever to charge. It's telegraphed. So
it is telegraphed, but there are cases of Pokemon dodging it after it's fired. So all the other ones though, they are not telegraphed in that sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Dark Mephiles says Solar Beam missing is not the same as Pokemon dodging. Yeah, it could also just be aimed poorly. So
Yeah, aim poorly, aim dodging since they point.
But we see them. Don't we see in the animation? Don't we see it fired and then the
but they're
Pokemon
in the
moves?
animation.
They do it in the anime. You can also argue that I wouldn't believe like every single time a Pokemon like it's not a miss. It's like, oh yeah, they dodge it because they do things like double team or something like that.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, so
yeah,
is Rathalos light speed?
So the whole thing that would be like a little bit of a chain because we can pretty much all agree that there's a monster called Rajang. He's like this big monkey boy who's a giant Dragon Ball Z reference, and he hunts an elder dragon called Kirin, and Kirin uses natural lightning for his attacks pretty much. And since Rajang should be on the same tier as all the Rathaloses and all that sort of stuff, that it's very clear that a lot of monsters, just like the chain scaling with Pokemon, you could say that they're all lightning timers. Since there's, I believe, hold on, let me see if I can remember it. Zerusu is the apex, like not apex. No, that's a different type. It's like one of the stronger Rathalos out there, and he uses light-based attacks. And so hunters that fight that Rathalos can react to his light-based attacks, and Rathalos can compare to the hunters that hunt them, and so on and so forth. So base speed of light should be arguable, to say the least.
Okay.
Comparable speeds
Chat,
overall.
Comparable
Chat, Jacob was not saying that all those things he listed were attacks. He was saying that they used light.
Yes.
So obviously you're not gonna attack with light screen, guys. Come on. Pay attention. Pay
Even
attention,
then,
guys. We're here to like get into the nitty-gritty of these characters. Pay attention.
And even then, like 8 of those were like things you would use on an opponent. Like Confuse Ray is something you would use on someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's saying it.
All right. But how? Okay, so now that we know for sure that Charizard is gonna try to smash and knock out Rathalos with a light screen and a reflect.
Yes. He's gonna bash him over the head with a wall.
Yeah, we're gonna take it.
Form a wall of light and smash him over the head with it. Did why mention it? Because he's trying to say that there are multiple light-based things. Pay attention,
Come on.
Pay attention to what's being said here, man. We are relying on you guys to tell us how you think this fight should be structured, right? Because like we have these wild creatures, but there's so many different varieties of it. So I'm very curious, chat. how do we approach this from like what type of Charizard are we bringing in? Are we bringing in anime? Are we bringing in Charizard Valley? Are we bringing in Charizard X, Charizard Y? What do you think we should be doing, chat? Let us know. And are we bringing in Light God Rathalos or whatever that you were talking about before?
I can
I
go
just-
over the Rathalos.
Donkey Long says, "Now I don't feel like paying attention." You know what? That's fair.
Yeah, they're
Fair.
this is something they're having in the background, and it's like I'm not paying attention. I do think it is. interesting
Jimmer
that-
says, "And Ben, we're
Alright.
fans. We can't read." Oh, that makes sense. That's something. Everything makes so much more sense.
Well, I also like to say one of my favorite things about the Monster Hunter community and just debating stuff like this in general is that our hunters in the games can literally get smacked by a thing that literally is the size of like a small mountain and easily get back up and start fighting again. Literally fight a giant fish thing that can hip check you so hard that he doesn't have to hit you and you still get hit. Yet the concept of being fast as lightning or fast as light is just off the table. I always love that so much, but I understand it a lot because aim dodging is a thing, but that's the same argument for like solar beam and a lot of light based attacks for Pokemon. And also the main thing to get at here is that if you're saying that there's a bunch of humans that apparently aim dodge lightning, I'm sorry.
It's not
Okay.
realistic enough. Come on.
Yeah.
As I fight this dragon.
So you mentioned earlier that Rathalos has like a poison. Is that like his main
Yes.
sort of way
yes.
to take Charizard
So-
down here?
So Rathalos and its female counterpart Rathian, their whole thing is fire and poison. Rathalos is more about fire, but does have poison, while Rathian is most about poison, but also has fire. When it comes to Rathalos, he has a thing called Fire Blight, which is basically burn, but kind of does something extra in game. It kind of reduces your red health, which is supposed to be recoverable health if you stay out of battle and then recover health without drinking the potion, while also taking down your regular health once it reaches that. So I guess it can kind of turn off conventional healing processes and regular poison, where if he hits you with his claws, you will more than likely be poisoned. I think the percentage is really high, to say the least.
Okay, so I guess my question to that for the first one, not the poison, is this is through a burn type of thing because Charizard, like fire types in Pokemon, are just immune to burn. Like
Yeah, the Fire Blight is different. Fire Blight affects people even with burn resistance. You can resist burn, but Fire Blight is like a completely separate thing. That's what makes it kind of confusing because there is burn, then there's Fire Blight.
No.
I think I remember that
Resistance
wrong.
to burn or immunity to burn?
Yeah, I
In
think
Monster Hunter.
you know what? No, I'm wrong. Fire Blight is just a representation of burn. My bad.
okay,
But the fact that it acts differently, because there's like another variation of Fire Blight that reduces your max health, which is not what regular burns do. So it definitely does have some otherworldly property, quote unquote.
okay.
Best way to put it. So it's not just like, oh, you're on fire and now you have a burn and now it hurts.
Is Rathalos immune to like this own kind of thing? Like, can the player inflicted on Rathalos, or if that's even a thing in Monster Hunter, if you can inflict that status
You can inflict poison, but I don't think Fire Blight
onto Rathalos? Okay.
onto Rathalos. I could be wrong about that because when fighting Rathalos, I think the last thing you want to do is try to hit it with fire weapons since it's resistant to fire. So let's just say I haven't really tested it out myself.
Okay, because I didn't want to mention because like Charizard fire type has also a lot of ways to burn, like its own burn infliction, which for Pokemon's sake is not only like a passive damage thing like the Fire Blight, but also it's like a physical attacking reduction, and it's just kind of permanent at the same time. So
Can you
if
can you inflict that on like a Pokemon with a fire resistance? Like, can you inflict that? Because if you could inflict that on a Charizard, you might be able to inflict that on a Rathalos.
you can't inflict it on Charizard because fire types are immune to burns, but you can inflict it to things that do resist fire, so like water types. Or
Yeah,
okay.
that's why I was asking: is
Okay.
Rathalos immune to fire and burns, or just?
I believe he probably is immune to, I mean, I will look it up as we speak, but I'm also, because I've never seen any like process where he would be inflicted with Fire Blight or anything.
Right, you're not going to
to
try to shoot Fire Blight at him because
Yeah.
he's resistant to fire.
He's resistant to fire.
because my logic would be okay. So if we count him being able to inflict Charizard with Fire Blight, we should probably also consider the Pokemon type of burn because that is also different in its own
Yeah.
ways.
I bet it is, yeah.
And Charizard has ways to like guarantee burns on Rathalos because it learns to move Inferno, which when it hits is a guaranteed burn effect. on or his other fire moves have a
I mean,
chance to
okay,
hide, too.
just so we don't spend too much time on this, it sounds like either way, neither of these are going to be a win con for them because they resist fire. They have similar abilities that they're typically able to resist or are immune to. It sounds like fire is not going to be the deciding factor for either of them.
Yeah.
So what are these guys bringing into the fight that isn't fire?
Poison. That's the main thing. Poison. Yeah, the main thing is poison. Like the whole deal with.
So how does Rathalos' poison work?
Just simply attacking with his claws, which is mostly what he does with it when he attacks. Rathian has its poison located in its back tail, while Rathalos has its poison located in its front claws.
And is it just poison damage, or does it like inflict a sort of like
if we're taking gameplay into account, when you're poisoned, your max health just fucking starts going down, just drastically.
So it's like a drain.
And yeah, it's definitely a huge drain. And if we're taking like real world connotations, it can kill you in like 30 to less than a minute if you don't treat it with an antidote or if it doesn't wear off. That's the one thing. It does wear off over maybe 30-ish minutes. It really depends on how hard he hits you, I guess is the best way to put it. The harder he hits you, the longer it lasts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait,
chat. Is something I use.
Wait, has anybody here? I see some people in chat suddenly talking about the Monster Hunter movie. Is Rathalos in the Monster Hunter movie?
People bring up a Monster Hunter movie where he gets attacked by military grade equipment, but we don't even have to go there. You see, Rathalos fought Big Boss in Peace Walker. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Oh.
Yeah, in a crossover, Big Boss himself. You can shoot a rocket launcher at Rathalos.
I don't think Big Boss would beat Charizard, but that's so sick. That's definitely on the sick level. That's definitely the highest I've heard.
So yes,
wait, you fight Rathalos with a rocket launcher?
Yeah, yeah, you can.
Like the Shagahad. That's so funny.
Dude,
that's amazing.
Charizard with a rocket launcher.
Yeah, what would happen if Charizard gets hit by a rocket launcher?
Well, I mean, there's just the move explosion is kind of just a thing. So I guess he would be fine.
I guess so.
Big Boss.
Big Boss.
I guess you could consider an electrode exploding kind of like a landmine.
Kind of, yeah.
All right. Well, we'll get to whether or not Charizard can survive a rocket launcher in just a minute. But before then, I'd like to tell you about how this podcast is brought to you in part by Stash. Are you still putting off saving and investing because you'll get to it someday? Well, Stash turns someday into today. Stash isn't just an investing app. It's a registered investment advisor that combines automated investing with dependable financial strategies to help you reach your goals faster. They'll provide you with personalized advice on what to invest in based on your goals. Or if you want to, you can just sit back and watch your money go to work. You can opt into their award-winning, expert-managed portfolio that picks stocks for you. Stash has helped millions of Americans reach their financial goals and starts at just $3 per month. Don't let your savings sit around. Make it work harder for you. Go to get.stash.com/DBC to see how you can receive $25 towards your first stock purchase and to view important disclosures. That's get.stash.com/DBC. Paid non-client endorsement, not representative of all clients, and not a guarantee. Investment advisory services offered by Stash Investments LLC, an SEC registered independent investment advisor. Investing involves risk and investments may lose value. An offer is subject to T's and C's. Thank you for sponsoring the show, Stash. Sponsors have always been super important to Death Battle, but especially when an episode is most recent Death Battle is age gated. So thank you, sponsors. And also, your Kickstarter pledges have really come in handy with what happened in Ghost Rider versus Spawn. So thank you, everybody, for helping and prepare us for this kind of situation. All right, so can Charizard survive getting shot in the face by a rocket?
I give up. I don't think he can.
Basically, what I'm leading into is like, how tough are these guys?
Okay.
Okay. You go first.
You can go.
Okay. First, I looked it up. Pretty sure on both ends they can't burn each other. You can't inflict fire blight to him, and you can't put burn on Charizard just to bury that.
Okay.
Hatchet.
Another
to go over like Rathalos's primary scaling would be most flagships like him could easily be building level in forms of taking attacks. When it comes to like the stronger variants of Rathalos, you can take on high rank level hunters, and high rank level hunters have these super powerful equipment that can really contend with like various elder dragon levels like Kushala Deora and stuff like that. I think that at the highest, I would say island level to large island level, and with some finagling, you can probably argue with some chain scaling of like small country, but at a low end island level for Rathalos at his strongest variant, mind you, not regular Rathalos, strongest variant.
Okay.
Regular Rathalos would be around building an outward.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
As for Charizard, Charizard should like a wild Charizard. They're fierce Pokemon who like fighting. And they like challenging stronger opponents. So they would naturally like scale to other wild Pokemon that are like other fully evolved Pokemon that are like not the legendaries, but like things like Machamp or something like that. This would include things like Abomasnow, who in Pokemon X and Y created a massive snowstorm over. I'm trying to remember the city name. I got a doc for this.
Obama Snow?
Obama
Abomasnow. Abomasnow, like a abominable snowman. They created a snowstorm over Dende
cool.
Milltown. That's gotten around to also island level, so comparable in like the low ends. And then even for like non-fully evolved Pokemon, I think people need to start accepting that Pokemon's just kind of absurd, and you guys kind of accept it, because there's this one feat from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, the evil Team Galactic. And this kind of goes back to the explosives bit. Spoiler alert. Is setting a bomb inside in Lake Valor, which is one of the lakes that house one of the legendary Pokemon. This bomb explodes and it evaporates all of the water in the lake and causes an earthquake that's felt across the entire Sinnoh region. Like, if you look on the map, it's going from here, and currently your character is all the way over here or something like that. And you feel the earthquake from all the way over there. And the Pokemon in the lake just survive that. Like when you get there, all the water is gone and you see Magikarp flopping around. Like they just tanked that, like a country like spanning earthquake explosion. Which I don't know how that makes sense. I feel like there should be more things destroyed there, but you kind of just gotta accept it because Pokemon's just Pokemon and it's weird. There's also and this kind of also supports a lot of the Pokedex entries that people seem to be like more iffy on, but I think it's totally fine because they've been supported much in the past, like Machamp's 1,000 Punches and Pokken. And there's things like Rhyhorn being stated to be able to shatter mountains, Tyranitar causing his rampages with only like one hand, being able to cause quakes that also destroy mountains and bury rivers to the point where they have to regularly update maps, like redraw maps in the universe. So on like country-ish level, like as a high end, and there could be even more based on the Pokedex, but I won't go into that for now.
How is the Pokemon world still standing?
They're just all built
different.
They're all just built different.
There's a scene in the anime where this like 5-year-old girl hugs a Magcargo, and ignoring the fact that Magcargo is made of lava, Magcargo is also said to be hotter than the sun.
Oh, right. That was insane. That would like cause the atmosphere to like break down. It's so hot.
Pokemon doesn't
like the atmosphere would explode. The atoms would,
People need to accept that Pokemon just doesn't make sense. This is the same thing where in the anime, Team Rocket flies thousands of feet in the air every episode.
Oh my gosh. You're right. There is a girl hugging a Magcargo. Hang on.
That's fucking crazy.
Sam, I'm going to send you this image to you. I kind of want us to bring this up because I know that this is getting a little off topic.
It's really funny.
But it's incredible that this even exists. How could they do this?
Are Pokemon humans like just naturally capable of surviving like the surface of the sun?
Yeah.
With like any
people like to use this to discount the Pokedex, and then I'm always just like, okay, but it's a girl hugging lava. How does that make any more sense?
Yeah, like that's just it. Like you're gonna take all this other stuff, but you can't handle
It's obviously lava.
You see it in shorts act as like as a fireplace. Yeah.
It's a slug made of love.
Yeah.
So that's the Pokedex entry for Magcargo, which, despite being hotter than the sun, the Pokedex entry specifies that it just like turns water into steam around it. But even then, that that girl should be burning up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should not be. Yeah.
Like
It's one of the Pokedex entries in the games. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's like its
That's
body
crazy.
temperature is roughly 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So maybe not. I don't know if that's like the surface of the sun or like.
yeah, I believe it is the surface level of the sun,
Yes.
but
Mhm.
for whoever wrote it didn't realize that and just said, "Oh, it evaporates water around it." So, but it would really do
It does.
which actually supports the theory even more that the world of Pokemon is different from ours. Because
Yeah.
if it's hotter than the sun, but all it does to the Pokemon universe is just evaporate some water, then
Yeah.
something
Some pretty strong water.
funky is going on in the Pokemon universe.
Water.
Pretty strong water.
City level water.
Yeah.
These Pokemon are built different. Humans are built different.
Pokemon water is built different. The rainwater in Pokemon is built different. Like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, a lot of these
it's
are
just-
definitely because they're old and Pokemon was trying to like kind of find its ground, and it's really funny because they still recycle these in later games.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Bedokin King asks a real question: who's stronger, your average human Pokemon or your average hunter in Monster Hunter?
That's actually a really good question because I've been rewatching the anime, and yeah, there have just been people all over the place that can punch through walls, pick up and chuck giant boulders. Then there's Ash, who can jump several thousand feet in the air and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
Casually,
Yeah,
throw
just
logs
casually.
that
Yeah.
weigh like 1,000
And just
pounds
chuck
or something
logs.
like
So and like Monster Hunter hunters, yeah, they can tank like literally meteors coming down from space from Dalmadur and just tank getting hit by him coming out at full speed. And Dalmadur is just huge, like building size monster and stuff like that. So they're both up there in forms of strength. And
These series are wild. I would love,
Yeah.
love talking about.
it's
this.
like, oh, but they're wearing like armor and stuff.
Back in the
Force is
day
still
when we did
alive.
Pokemon versus Digimon, and we had that moment when Ty punched Red. If Red had punched him back,
Mhm.
would he have taken Ty's head off?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because Red doesn't really fight much. He's not like Ash, where he goes up and punch on Mewtwo.
Assuming he's a normal Pokemon human, could he punch off just a normal person, like a normal Earth, like real life human's head?
That's a good question.
Very, very
I
like
think we should have the rematch, but it's just Red and Ty.
red and
Just
tie. Yeah.
Red and
Yeah.
Ty.
We
Well,
can
what-
keep Red's legs broken just to make it fair.
Well, we do have, as part of the Kickstarter, we've guaranteed that we are going to be doing Ash versus Yugi at some point. So maybe we will find out what happens when Ash punches
It's
Yugi
like-
in the face.
just have the two just scrap. No Pokemon, no cards,
Yeah.
just two.
See, when we said we were going to do Ash versus Yugi, it's not Pokemon versus Yu-Gi-Oh! It is just Ash Ketchum versus Yugi Moto. It's just the kids.
What's Ash gonna do when Yugi bashes him over the head with a dual disc?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay. So all right. So let's lock in on this, because I've seen some people in chat suggesting how we approach the different forms and things like that. And generally speaking, there's a lot of different responses to it, like making sure that we take in like the mega forms and things like that, but also Ash's Charizard versus the Charizard in Smash Brothers versus the Charizard in the anime, or other Charizards in the anime. There's a lot of different ways we can take Charizard, but I think I'd like to learn a little bit about the different ways we could take Rathalos, so that we could kind of figure out how we approach like max power, potentially max power that we're incorporating here, Rathalos.
Yeah.
So like what kind of max power Rathaloses are there?
Hey, can I since I put this list here, I really would like to go through this. Sam, do me a favor. Let's do this. One, the Rathalos tree. Yeah, can you bring that up for me? So when
Rathalos
going over
tree.
Rathalos, there's Rathalos, Dread King Rathalos, Flame Rathalos, Destruction Wyvern Rathalos, Azure Rathalos, Silver Rathalos, Apex Rathalos, Zenith Rathalos, Ratha, Razoring Ratha, Zerusu, Sparkling Zerusu, Guardian Rathalos. He's the newest one that came in the most recent game. And then there's the female variant called Rathian, Dread Queen Rathian, Apex Rathian, Pink Rathian, Gold Rathian, Conflagration Rathian, Scorching Heat Rathian, and there's this monster. He's at the end there. He's the black one at the very end of the last corner, at the bottom corner. He's the black one. In Monster Hunter, I think it's Frontier. it's like we don't know what monster this is, even though it's clearly like a Rathalos Rathian like counterpart. And he's called Unknown Black Flying Wyvern, and he has two subspecies called Supremacy Unknown and Solstice War Unknown. But there's also one other Rathalos called I'm calling him Rathalos from Dragalia Lost, which is like a crossover Rathalos. The reason why I'm counting as a different variant because it specifically says that it's a Rathalos that followed the team out of the Monster Hunter world into their world, nested on a monopool, and then went through a biological shift in its structure to become as strong as it is in that game. That's why I'm counting as a different Rathalos, since I actually explained it. Taking all those into account, not counting crossovers, I believe the strongest variants would be Ziritsu, which is the light one that controls light and is like one of the more powerful ones, and the unknown variant of the Black Flying Wyvern, especially its Solstice War Unknown subspecies.
Okay, because I was about to ask, this isn't like a thing where it could just like change its like
No,
species.
that's the whole thing about this. That's the whole thing about this topic. If we're just going with Rathalos, we ignore all the Rathian variants, since that's just the female version is technically its own monster, but it's just Rathalos, but a girl. And only going with the variants, subspecies, and other types that it has, I would say the most debatedly discussed strongest variants is, I think, Dread King, Rathalos, Ziritsu, and the Unknown Black variant.
Okay, because I was gonna be like, even though Charizard is like across different media, it's still generally like Charizard. Like the equivalent to this would be like the regional variants that they have in like Alola and Galar and stuff. But Charizard doesn't have any of those. The most you could probably compare is like there are wild Gigantamax Charizard and Galar, which are like 91 feet tall if we really want to go there.
I just really wanted to bring up all the Rathalos variants. I know we're not going to use all of them, and I know using any of them in like a
let's briefly kind of go over those three that you mentioned. Dread King,
which is older Rathalos.
Black one, and the third one, Ziritsu or whatever it's called.
Ziritsu is like so Monster Hunter Frontier G is like the Monster Hunter game that really went off the wall with its monsters and its designs and what they do. And obviously Rathalos is no different. I would say the main one, like in forms of like the mainline series that's outside of Frontier, would be Dread King Rathalos, which is the eldest variant of Rathalos. So older, meaning more experience, more ruthless, and probably at its peak in power. Kind of like how when we talk about Fatalis, White Fatalis is just the stronger variant of Fatalis, since it's older, older and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So of these three, is it possible for a normal Rathalos to become any of those?
Not after a long period of time. Obviously, a Rathalos can become a Dread King Rathalos over a long period of time, but that will require a long period of time. Apex Rathalos can technically exist, but that requires outside help.
So what about the Ziritsu in the black one?
Ziritsu is how it's born. A Ziritsu is literally born that way. That's what I mean by the strongest version of a Rathalos. That would be.
So Ziritsu sounds like it's a very unique case.
Yes.
And that might not really count as Rathalos in that sense. So then the unknown, is that a Rathalos that has become something else, or is that also the case where it was born or created separately?
Pretty much, yeah. Like a lot of these is strictly either evolutionary differences based on environment / how they were born and what environment they were born in, or just the amount of time passed for a thing. The whole thing is like you have especially for this debate.
Okay, just specifically, Dread King is amount of time passed. Ziritsu is it was born that way.
Yes.
It is a unique sort of like mutant. The black one, the unknown one, do we know how that was created or how it reached that point?
I would say no. The whole deal about it is that it's supposed to be unknown, but it's like clear it's supposed to be a Rathalos Rathian variant.
So there isn't like a plot twist later on in the game where it's like, oh, this was a Rathalos all along, and some scientist made it super powered or something like that.
Not that I'm aware of, mostly because when it comes to Monster Hunter Frontier, its story is basically almost unknowable at this point because of how it's no longer available to really play. At least for me, I'm pretty sure other people found a way to play it.
Oh, okay. Then in that sense. Like if we were to compare it to Pokemon and how we're going to like really decide what kind of Charizard to use, Ziritsu sounds more like if we were arguing about Mew and then we brought in Mewtwo.
Yeah.
Does that
I
make
think
sense? Like it's a
that-
different sort of like evolution variant of it that is separate from the original.
Yeah.
Unknown is literally unknown. It's difficult to really like link in this way. But
Mhm.
Dread King sounds like that is the peak that we would
Yeah.
want to take. So
Yes.
Dread King would be if we were going to take max power like
Yeah.
Ultimate Charizard, whatever that may be.
I
We
think
would
that
pit
would
it against
be
Dread King.
to be as straightforward as possible. Dread King versus a wild Charizard makes sense since these are two wild things at their apex and power at the best they can be without any outside help of trainers or any outside forces that allows them to get stronger forms in any way. And if you want like trainer Charizard, you got Ratha. Ratha is the main Rathalos part of the Monster Hunter Stories verse, which is essentially like Pokemon, where Ratha is like a trained Rathalos. And let's just say some things, if taken 100% seriously in that game, can really bring up the scaling.
Okay,
Like
hang on. So is Ratha more powerful than Dread King?
It's debatable. Yeah, I could say yes. I'd say that's very debatable because
Okay.
Ratha is
So
able
then-
to, despite being a newborn, kind of, it can take on high-end monsters by itself with its trainer. Yeah.
Okay, so then let's for the next 5 minutes or so, let's look at this as Ash's Charizard versus Ratha.
Oh, fun.
I think it'd be more interesting if it was Reds specifically because
Oh,
this is
sure,
still like
Reds.
because this is like the main. If we want to talk about the mainline games, because I know people might have concerns about using the anime. Just
Yeah.
Sure.
So what else? So what? How is the scaling then for like Ratha then in that case? And like, does Ratha have any unique abilities compared to other Rathalos?
Oh, sorry. Say that again.
Sorry. I was saying, does Ratha have any unique abilities, and how is the scaling for Ratha?
So let me introduce you to something. Sam, bring up hyperspace tackle.
Hyperspace tackle.
You see, there's a monster named Plesioth who is part of the community as a meme. Where his
Who's
hitbox.
this little guy?
Yeah, this is
He's
Plesioth.
adorable.
He's an adorable little guy. He has hyperspace tackle. Hyperspace means something that is above the core 3 dimensions, meaning that this attack is a tackle that attacks you at least on a 4th dimensional level or some stupid stuff like that. It's
Okay,
all.
but it's just named hyperspace tackle. How do we know it means it literally? Because
It's the thing that, like,
moves in Pokemon-
obviously, this is more of a joke. Obviously, it's more of a joke. I just really wanted to point this out because the whole meme with Plesioth is that his hitbox is so stupid that in the old games, if he hip checked you and you were like on this side of the screen and he's over there, you still get hit. So they
Because
actually
he's in
leaned into-
hyperspace.
Yeah.
He's in hyperspace.
So they actually leaned into
Counter
the
argument: there are 2 moves in Pokemon that literally have hyperspace in the name too.
Yeah,
so
obviously.
checkmate.
There we go.
I really wanted to bring it up. So yeah, again, if you take it seriously, then they're both equal in that aspect when you take those into account.
Man, this
But,
match is very equal.
Yeah. There you go. Backfire equal.
Let's go.
But in all honesty, when it comes to wrap up seriously, it would just be a lot of the monsters do have like my knowledge in stories is very limited, but the main thing I do know is Ratha is a special case. He's like a special Rathalos, and he's stronger than any other variant of Rathalos. Razorwing Rathalos is like an even more special variant, thanks to his trainer being able to help him tactfully and cautiously beat various monsters that should be way above his pay grade that a normal Rathalos wouldn't be able to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. For Charizard's perspective, I mean, I'll mix this in because I have I wanted to also talk about more of like Charizard's like not just straight up like fire attacks because he has more than just fire, right? So real quick, before going into like Red's Charizard, I did want to mention moves that could help because seemingly beforehand we were kind of like, okay, they're both like light speed, they're both like island to country level or so they're pretty even. But because Charizard is like a playable like RPG character, he has like a bunch of different moves that can help like sway the flow of battle because like he has moves like even like basic ones like Growl will help tremendously for like lowering physical attack. It has Dragon Breath, which is a projectile option that can be used that wouldn't be resistant, and it has a chance of paralyzing the foe, so it makes it so that they just become slower and also have a chance of not being able to move at all. Depending on how lucky you are, because RNG. And then also he has Scary Face, which also lowers speed, and Smokescreen, which can help shroud himself in a smokescreen, which would lower the accuracy of all of Rathalos' attacks. So I think from like that perspective, Charizard has ways of getting himself to be stronger. And these are all from his level up moveset, so this wouldn't be like some sort of like out of character type of thing, right? Like for how Charizard likes to fight, because it likes to be intimidating. So Scary Face and Growl would make sense in that sense and stuff like that. For Red Charizard in particular, Pokemon trainers kind of get wacky, like legitimately, because ever since like Ruby and Sapphire, um, they've had to deal with Pokemon that like kind of like deal with like the concepts of like certain things, like Groudon and Kyogre, like Groudon's someone who's like shifted continents. Um, Kyogre can make storms that like go across the entire Hoenn region. Um, Things like that kind of get absurd for Pokemon trainers, and Red is always depicted as like being superior.
Mhm.
Even in Sun and Moon, he reappears as like an older person, and he's able to fight the main protagonist of that game. And in that game, uh, there's segments where you go on a hyperspace ride across light years, and you're able to react with your legendary Pokemon of choice.
Mhm.
So it does get pretty absurd if we did want to use a trained Charizard.
Mhm.
Uh, because otherwise, I don't know if Ratha would be able to compete.
When looking up some stuff for Ratha is completely immune to all status effects and debuffs when with his trainer, it seems. He is only weak to Thunder, and while most Rathalos and Rathalosai are weak to Dragon and Thunder, it's just this one's only weak to Thunder. It has a move called Sky High Dive that is guaranteed to deal 999 damage. So that's fun.
That's fun.
uh, and
Health bars.
yeah, like, and yeah, Razzring Ratha, which would probably be the strongest iteration of Ratha itself, is definitely has some things if you look more deeper into it as an RPG related character. So I could see it still holding up a bit of a fight with itself. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So with all that in mind, chat, I just put a poll up. Feel free to get in your votes to determine what we're going to lock in for the matchup that we're going to vote on at the end of the show. While you guys get your votes in, let me tell you about our other sponsor for this week's Death Metal Cast, which is Green Chef. Have you been telling yourself, like I have, I'm going to start eating healthier? And then, like me, you just don't. It's hard to break habits, but with Green Chef, you can whip up a new, healthier eating habit that lasts with real, clean foods. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for clean eating, delivering prepped, quality whole foods with limited processed ingredients. Green Chef sends organic, fresh produce, responsibly sourced proteins, and chef-designed recipes in every box for satisfying, nourishing, and convenient meals that make it easy to stick to a clean eating routine. With pre-made sauces and pre-portioned ingredients, there's less prep and less mess, and more time to savor delicious restaurant quality meals. Like, I just got done whipping up this orange cauliflower bowl, which was delicious. And this is what the sort of thing they send with the box looks like. It's just a single, sheet, runs you through the recipe and how to put it together, how to whip it up. It looks like that. Like, it actually does look like that, and it tastes great. So it was really easy to follow the instructions, and I am by no means a good cook. So I really appreciate how they have that structured. And it works really well, and tasted good too. So if you really want to lock in for your health journey, like I really want to do, Green Chef has some great salad options too, that can be made in 5 minutes or less, as well as ready to blend smoothies and grab and go protein packed breakfasts. So thrive all year with clean, easy meals from Green Chef. Go to greenchef.com/castfree and use the code castfree, all one word, to get started with free salads for 2 months plus 50% off your first box. Kind of a great deal. That's right. At greenchef.com/castfree, use code castfree to get free salads for 2 months plus 50% off your first box. And thanks to Green Chef for the sponsor, the #1 meal kit for eating well. All right. Let me see how that poll is doing. It's actually pretty close. So the poll was choose between Ratha versus Red's Charizard or Wild Rathalos versus Wild Charizard, and we kind of split. We do currently have 53% leaning towards the Wild matchup. Just one word response from you guys, John and Jacob. Do you think Wild Rathalos versus Wild Charizard is more fair or more even? I should say more even than Ratha versus Reds.
Yeah.
I think Wild versus Wild is more even and fair if we're just going straight like this is what it can learn when it's just coming out, like
Yeah.
what you did with the
Just yes or
Pokemon
no.
Outlet. Yeah.
Yes.
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 Okay. Then we are gonna lean into wild. Wild versus wild. That is what the poll agrees on as well. Okay.
Okay.
So, let's see. Okay. So, with that in mind, let's start wrapping up the argument. What is the one thing that each of these wild versions are going to bring to the match that could decide it? Let's start with Rathalos.
Rathalos, given the fact that if we're going wild versus wild, a lot of Pokemon tend to only really kind of come into existence in like a couple of months, while Rathalos would more than likely be alive for several decades. So experience, his poison would definitely give some semblance of advantage if he just nicks him once. And when it comes to aerial versus aerial, they should be about even on that aspect. And just overall more using his height, his size advantage as well as his poison.
Okay. Charizard?
I think Charizard's versatility would help maintain a stat advantage or speed advantage, which would obviously give him the advantage when it comes to the main stats, but also just the variety of effects he could get onto a wild Rathalos, because it's Ratha that has like immunity to like a bunch of statuses, but a wild Rathalos would not have like immunity to being paralyzed. And this isn't even going into like a bunch of like egg moves and TMs, which wild Pokemon can learn. There have been several cases of showing that, which would boost Charizard's options even further. I didn't have time to go over them, but I guess quickly, there's like some.
Do
Yeah.
wild Pokemon then find one of the TMs and they know how to operate it?
I
guess
don't know. They
I
just
don't
kinda
think
have
so.
it. Like, egg moves make sense because you get that through breeding. So, like,
Yeah.
wild Charizard could, like, for example, he has, like, some rock moves. He has stat-raising moves like Dragon Dance and Swords Dance, to increase, like, the stat gap even further. He does have
Wait, do
healing.
we know how TMs work? Chat, does anybody know if there's like lore about how those at this point there's got to be some lore
Yeah.
how technical machines work, right? Are they like injections or are they like something
They're
you
like learning
code?
devices, I
I
think.
remember when you just kind of smack him on the head and then you
Yeah,
sort of
Fire
learn.
Red.
Yeah.
Fire
Is
Red,
that
you
what
put, like, this- you
happens?
put, like, a
Yeah, that's how
CD on
they
their
show
head,
it.
and then they
Just
absorb
smack it on
damage.
their head. And then it's like you
Okay.
learn the move.
So if a wild Pokemon finds a TM that they're compatible with, so long as they smack their head into it, they can learn the move.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I think I just
Sure.
generally for Charizard, I think the versatility and the fact that it can contend with giant opponents no matter the experience, because there's another thing I forgot to mention is that Pokemon like Charizard who can learn the move strength can move pillars that weigh 5,000 tons. That's
right.
pretty important for dealing with giant opponents.
We've talked a little bit about Rathalos' size, but I don't think we've actually specified how big is Rathalos compared to Charizard.
5 feet versus 24 meters.
Yeah, I do think.
Pretty big.
Okay.
I do think the size could actually be in Charizard's favor because one of the main win cons for Rathalos is the poison, and you would need to hit a very small target with your claws.
You'd
and
be
flying all
shocked
around
how
you.
many people get hit by that poison when fighting him with other hunters.
Are they flying around?
Yes. Like the whole thing
Alright.
about
Dang
Rathalos,
it.
he's so annoying because he's always off the ground. You can barely get to him, and he's always hitting you, especially Rathian. It's a stupid backflip move.
Sorry. I always forget that Charizard is 5 feet tall. He's a
Yeah.
he's a short king.
He's an
and then how tall was Rathalos?
The max size of a Rathalos can reach up to 24 meters, 23-ish, yeah.
So that's
So it's like
78
70,
feet.
80 feet.
Yeah, in Pokemon Go, there's somebody who caught a Charizard who was 2 meters.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean the Pokedex
Oh.
is like an average of everything
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, so maybe Charizard could get up to 8 feet or so,
Yeah.
but
Ish, yeah.
still, Rathalos is around 10 times potentially bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
All right, I didn't realize the size difference was actually so great. But if
Yeah.
Charizard's power can kind
Yeah.
of match and surpass Rathalos,
It
that
doesn't
makes
really
this,
matter,
even more interesting. Okay.
yeah.
There was one other question I wanted to ask. So Mega Evolution. If we go with a wild Charizard, theoretically Mega Evolution is off the table because you need a trainer. However, I know there are some examples, like in that Mewtwo movie, of a wild Pokemon using Mega Evolution. Is there an argument that a wild Charizard could use Mega Evolution?
No, you'd have to use Mystery Dungeon, but at that point, they're, like, more self-aware, so I wouldn't use that. There have been
That's like
cases for Charizard being able to Gigantamax and Terrastalize, though, in the wild,
mhm.
and that would be a
Okay.
91-foot tall Charizard versus
That
he
is
would have the
based on
silent
location, right? I actually don't really
It
know.
is
is
based on
based on
location. That
it
is
is.
throwing them in a set location too.
Yeah.
Is
It's just the fact that
terrestrializing
it's
based on
a
location, or is that based on
So far,
how
I
does
think
that work?
yes. Terrestrializing is also based on location due to the what's it called, the giant crater, the zero
Yeah, I
area.
think you can technically
location
do it
0.
anywhere, but you need to, like like, the games, you have, like, a little
Yeah,
capsule that you hold all the energy in,
yeah.
that you
Okay.
do it in.
I think it originates there, but I think you can if they want to bring it to other regions, you can. Gigantamax
So
though.
it is
Dynamax
required
energy.
that a trainer brings that energy to
Yeah.
the battle. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. All
So I
right.
guess
So
that would be the equivalent to, like, the Zerusu type of thing, I would say.
yeah.
Yeah, I would think so. Like, yeah, if we're talking like the strongest possible thing that is classified as a Rathalos, that is Irisu.
Okay.
That you
So
can.
let's get to the vote. And before we get to the vote, I'd like you guys to give like a final sort of argument. So we'll start with Charizard again. So
Charizard.
Jacob, just anything left to talk about with Charizard? Any sort of final argument? Go for it.
Mostly just that Pokemon's absurd. Being an RPG character is absurd for maintaining, like, really good advantages. I've said that before for, like, maintaining attack and speed advantages. Size is really important here because if Rathalos' one win con is poison, he'd have to hit the 5'7" Charizard who can fly and just shoots projectiles, including things that could paralyze. Um, or if we do want to, like, say they could both burn each other, then Charizard's burn would be able to lower his attack even further. So Charizard would also be able to outlast Rathalos in that sense. IMO.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And John for Rathalos.
If we're going off the fact that a lot of things do point to the fact that their speed should be around even to the speed gap not really mattering very much, him hitting Charizard shouldn't be that big of a problem, considering that he's been hunting hunters who are just about the size of him all the time, and they are slippery bastards, to say the least. Along with the fact that Rathalos, this massive size does help him tank a lot of hits from smaller opponents, even if the wide area of effect towards his body was able to handle it. And if we are going with the burn versus burn thing, Fire Blight, it doesn't just like burn, it really does like attack like your normal healing processes. So it's also exhausting you in a way as well. So it will be kind of like a war of attrition if Rathalos can last long enough to really whittle down Charizard with what he has. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. With all that in mind, I'm gonna bring up the poll, but I'm curious, Liam.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Who do you think wins?
So I think that the big advantage that Rathalos has is the poison, but that's not something that is like foreign to Pokemon having to deal with poison attacks. I think that what it seems like based on the discussion is that Charizard has an advantage in power and is relatively even in speed, but can boost both of those through stat boosting moves. That's going to make landing hits on a smaller opponent more difficult if he does have a speed advantage. And if he does have a strength advantage, then I think he's just going to overwhelm Rathalos. I don't think the size advantage really matters in Rathalos' case because Charizard's feats, like even the low end feats, are capable of handling things like much heavier and more massive than a Rathalos. So yeah, I think probably the wider variety of moves and the stat advantage that Charizard has gonna let him win.
Okay. Well, I see a super chat from El Cato that says Charizard can survive a Machamp's seismic toss, which is a much higher yield than a rocket launcher, and that alone makes you go like, yeah, I'm rooting for Charizard.
That is true. You
Yeah,
can
true.
throw Groudon, who weighs a ton, into space.
But I am very curious, especially if we did look at, so again, we are looking at Wild Charizard versus Wild Rathalos for this specific poll, but I'm curious, anybody who's watching this, whether watching it live or later on the VOD, should we do this as a death battle? Should we really dive into what makes Rathalos and Charizard work as a matchup, or maybe even Ratha and Red's Charizard, or maybe even Ash's Charizard, which I'm sure gets even crazier. I'm very curious because I think we got to do a dragon battle, right? Like we got to do some dragons.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the dragon, not dragon battle for us to do. So let us know. I'm leaning towards Charizard at the moment, but I do think if we brought in Ratha, there might be some things there to sway me. Although also, yeah, exactly. He's hyperspace. And also
4D.
40.
Rathalos is like potentially 10 times bigger than Charizard. I feel like that's gonna be. I feel like that has to be a factor to some degree, right?
But then if you bring in Ratha,
Ratha is smaller, yeah.
If you bring in Ratha, then you have to bring in Red's Charizard, who fights fucking legendaries.
Yeah.
So I think that like
either like for me, now that I'm pretty sure I see the winner of the poll, I'm on Charizard's side too, because like Rathalos by himself has nothing on a Charmeleon, much less.
Hang on, John. Wait till the poll's done before you start
kidding?
trashing
You want to know how sad it is? I voted against myself. That's how.
Wait, you need to.
I need to sell the illusion.
You can't give up before the poll's done.
Right.
Wait,
fine. Poll's done.
I think really the only Rathalos that has even a smidgen of chance of winning if you take all the variants and then composite it into one Rathalos. I think that one would put up a good fight, but that's just unfair with that.
Dang, he folded that quickly. It wasn't even done.
He folded before the poll was even done.
I didn't not fold. It's called reading the room.
So normally we save that for our champion cast. But now John got it in early.
I did my best though. That's the whole thing. I was walked into this den and he's like, man,
you didn't know.
Is like a big lizard. good luck me.
It was very interesting learning because I did some like I looked on the wiki. I'm like, okay, wait, these aren't all the same thing.
No.
Like all the species. I was like, oh, I thought it'd be like a
different variants, subspecies, various things like that. You can't just
some are variants, some are not, which is interesting. So this is so if anything, I now know so much more about Rathalos, which is great. Because I'm very interested to explore this kind of idea of this sort of monster in a full death battle. And I saw a lot of people in chat being like, hell yeah, this would be a great episode. So props to John for making that happen at least. So the very very interesting monster for sure. But also the poll is over. We got I believe it was 64% of the vote. Charizard wins. Yeah. There we go.
Composite Rathalos.
All right.
Composite Rathalos. This is base Charmander we're talking about.
Composite Rathalos, save me.
All right. Yeah. That's the sequel to this, right? So it's time for Ratha. Oh no. Dread King Rathalos versus a wild Charmander, level 5, the one you get from Professor Oak. Let's see who wins that.
Trust me, if it was Composite Rathalos, I would be hitting a lot harder because Composite Rathalos is ridiculous.
Also,
all right.
Quick, I do want to shout out Rena, who helped me a bit for this. So sorry, John, we kind of did tag team.
It's fine. It's fine. I was walking into this losing battle. I was prepared.
Well, maybe we'll cover more of that in the post show. So great job, guys. Very fun matchup. I think this would be a very fun episode for sure. Thank you everybody for tuning in and checking this out. And again, thank you to everybody who supported Ghost Rider versus Spawn as it was going through the whole age restriction thing. If you're curious about more information regarding what was going on with Ghost Rider versus Spawn, I did make a post on both a thread on both Blue Sky and Twitter that you can go check out, and that kind of covers the whole situation and why things are the way they are, including the sort of current like editing, version of the fight that's currently up. So please go check that out. It covers everything you need to know. But thank you so much for tuning in live and for voting for a very fun matchup. And we will see you in the next one next week. Take care.